We're about a month away from the start of the season, and with all the transfers that have already happened, I wanted to go over 3 players that have to perform this upcoming season. This first one might be a little controversial, and I'll explain in what sense, but for the first one, I'm going to go with Mateus Cunha and Bryan Mbuemo. And the reason why I say both of them, I think if one exceeds expectations, it might take away from the other one not fulfilling to the expectations. And maybe that's controversial to say, but I do think if Mateus Cunha blows everyone out of the water and Mbuemo has a mid-season, people will forget a little bit more about Mbuemo and use up all that energy and praise Mateus Cunha. Again, I could be completely wrong, but because in the recent years, I would say 90% without even looking, have been flops for United. So let's go ahead and actually take a look. And I'll try to be as unbiased as possible. So here we go. Lenny Yoro, I would say he's not flopped. I think he's actually been doing pretty good for United. Ugarte, I'd say he's been mid. De Ligt, he's been mid. Xerxes, he's been okay. The beginning of last season was obviously horrible, but he picked it up. Mazraoui's been a good signing. Patrick Dorgu's been a pretty decent signing so far. So I would say as of last season's transfers, no one's necessarily been a flop, but no one's, I would say, exceeded expectations by any means. The 23-24 season, Højlund flop, Mason Mount flop, Onana flop, Bayandir, okay, it's not like he plays a lot of the times. Anthony flop, Casemiro inconsistent, flop. Someone might argue that. Someone might say he's been mid. Lisandro, he's been good for the most part, in my opinion, when fit, but he's not fit often, so you can put that however you want. Malacia flop. Christian Eriksen, I won't even go over because he was free, so I guess not really much of an expectation there. Sancho flop. Varane was good. Ronaldo was good. Van de Beek flop. Diallo's been good. Tejas was there for so little, but I guess I would say flop. Pelestri didn't become what we thought he would. Maguire, I would say, has been good, and I would give him a lot of respect for coming back from what he went through the first half of his United career to this later half. Bruno Fernandes, always been a successful transfer. Wan-Bissaka, mid. Dan James, meh. Which is actually crazy because this is from the year 2019-2020. That's when we've had our, last extremely good signing, Bruno Fernandes. It's been 5 years, which is crazy to think about. And for that reason that it's been 5+ years since a United transfer has worked out the way it has with Bruno, I think between Bryan Mbuemo and Mateus Cunha, one of them has to exceed expectations. And obviously it'd be even worse if none of them even fulfill expectations. But let me know if you agree with that one. The second one I'm going to go over is Lamine Yamal. Lamine Yamal taking the number 10 means he has to, at least in my opinion, match his performances from last season. I don't always want to rely on stats, but you could say that if you want. Get really close to the stats he had last season. Obviously, if not, improve. But he has to improve now that he has the number 10. There should be that more pressure naturally. You're taking the number 10 of the greatest player of all time that was at that club, Lionel Messi. We all saw what happened last time with Ansu Fati. They gave him the number 10 and he disappeared, started having injuries and whatnot. And now he's a thing of the past. No matter how good that small peak of his was, he will always just be remembered as the number 10 flop after Messi. Lamine Yamal has to do everything in his power to not become that next person, because I think if this happens with Yamal, people are going to start to say that the number 10 at Barcelona is now cursed. And I want to make it clear, I'm for Lamine Yamal. I think he's a great player. I do think he will fulfill the expectations of the number 10 at Barcelona. But I'm just saying the amount of pressure he has to perform now has drastically increased. And obviously people don't like that he's been partying and been more active on social media. And I get that, because I always see the memes on Instagram and stuff that imagine if I was the third choice goalkeeper for Burnley, I'd be doing way more, which I do agree with. But nonetheless, Lamine Yamal has to put up the numbers, has to put up the performances of being the number 10 at Barcelona. And that's what I think separates the really good people with the greats of the game. They consistently got better or consistently maintained a world-class level. Can Lamine Yamal do it for the next 10 years? I guess we'll find out. And last but not least, I'm going to say Florian Wirtz. I think with the stats he had at Bayer Leverkusen in the last season, 16 goals, 14 assists. The year before that, 18 goals, 19 assists. Year before that, torn ACL, if I'm not mistaken. Year before that, 10 goals, 14 assists. He always had well over 20 goals and assists. Do I think he's going to do that in the Premier League? I don't know. And I'm saying I don't know because they've just signed Ekitike. Salah obviously is relied on for most of the attacking output. They're about to sign Isak. I don't know how they're going to split up all of these goals and assists. Can he get the 20+ goals and assists? I do think he can. There's a lot of games. I don't know how much he's going to get rotated. But nonetheless, there is that pressure of him putting up those numbers because of his price tag. Because every time anyone goes over 100 million, whatever currency you want to put it in, that makes it sound like it's over 100 million, they always have to perform or they will be scrutinized, even if it's not entirely their fault. And what I mean by that is Jack Grealish at Aston Villa, the main guy, the go-to guy, got to City, went left for 100 million, and obviously did not play the way he did at Villa. Do I think it's entirely his fault? No. He played for Pep. Pep makes robots. And that's not a diss at Pep because it works. he wins. But all I'm saying is it's not always the player's fault. But I do think in this slot team, and especially from the 1 or 2 preseason games I've seen of Florian Wirtz, I'm going to say he does have that potential to put up those numbers. But I also think on the flip side, if he doesn't remotely perform like the way he does at Leverkusen, he will be judged. And especially in England, he's going to be judged pretty damn heavily. I will say though, if they sign Isak, that could take some of the spotlight away from him, which is actually pretty smart when I think about it out loud. With the signings that Liverpool has done this season, the attacking ones at least, Ekitike, Isak, and Florian Wirtz, they can almost split that spotlight. So maybe it won't be as much pressure, but I guess we'll see. But those are my top 3 players that need to perform next season. Let me know if you agree or disagree, or just any other shouts in the comments.